Just before I bring in our guest, Dolapo, the head of energy research at EcoBank Group, let's bring you some of the stories that we're tracking for you on the energy markets. As 4 of the countries that Nigeria's crude oil grades remain under force majeure, and the schedule for 2 other grades face delay. Nigeria is losing at least 10.7 billion naira. That's almost 11 billion naira in revenue daily. Following the declaration of force majeure on the grades, more than 700,000 barrels per day of production have been affected, denying the country a huge revenue. We told you that yesterday on the show about how the NNPC GMD was saying that there's been a shortfall of 700,000 barrels of oil due to force majeure that we are experiencing in the country. Pipeline vandalism is not also helping matters, and so oil output in the country has dropped significantly, thus affecting how much revenue the government can rake in from crude oil receipts. So we're seeing the fact that Nigeria's reliance on earnings from oil exports and the recent production disruptions caused by militant attacks came as an additional pressure on the energy markets. So the government is also saying that it's trying to see how it can get more oil in some parts of the country, especially in the Chad Basin. How much of this would help to revamp the already affected segment of the Nigerian economy, and how much revenue can this bring in for the economy? Dolapo Oni now joins me. He is the head of research at EcoBank Group here in Lagos, talking about the search for oil by the Nigerian government and how much of it can it get within a short period of time. Good morning, Dolapo.
Good morning, Bolaji.
Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thanks for
About 4 weeks ago, the president, that's President Buhari, had directed the NNPC to speed up its prospect for oil in the Chad Basin and Kolmani River. We talked about this, I think, 2 weeks ago here on the show, following the reported discovery of hydrocarbons by Shell near that area. Again, last week, President Buhari directed the NNPC to commence exploration activities in the Benue Trough, a major geological formation underlying a large part of the country, extending about 1,000 kilometers northeast from the Bight of Benin to Lake Chad. What do you make of this renewed drive for oil search by the federal government?
Okay, I mean, there are 2 sides to it, and for a balanced analysis, I think it's important to look at it from both sides. Number one is the fact that we're very vulnerable to disruptions in the Niger Delta. So as a result, if we can't find oil in any other part of the country where we might be better able to manage production and avoid supply disruptions, I think it's an opportunity we should consider. And also considering the fact that our neighbors, Chad and Cameroon, who have some of these geological plays that we're looking at, the Benue Trough essentially is replicating the Rio de Rey basin in Cameroon, and then our portion of the Lake Chad is expected to also replicate the geographical play that is also providing oil for them in Chad as well. So that I believe is the angle the government is looking at it from: reduce vulnerability to disruptions in the Niger Delta, and target similar geological plays that have provided oil in other countries. Now, but the flip side to this is the fact that we've actually explored in this region for years and we've come up with nothing. And at the same time, we're also in a period where pretty much every little revenue we have right now should be dedicated to the economy. So I think it's a tough call that the government has made. It may not necessarily be the best, but it's a tough call, and I understand why.
While one is not trying to be pessimistic here, if we're moving away from the Niger Delta to the northeast, the Chad Basin, what level of investment in terms of security are we planning to put in place in order to protect these oil fields and even the pipelines that will be laid in years to come?
Very excellent question, because again, that's also something that you have to consider if you are going to drill and look for oil in the northeast. We have a significant prevalence of, significant insecurity from the attacks of Boko Haram in that region. So headsmen and all that. So you have to think about the fact that, so even if you find oil there are a couple of other issues. Number one, if we do find oil there, it doesn't necessarily mean we can start producing the oil right away or within any short period of time. I can guarantee you, if we make a discovery today in the Lake Chad area, we probably won't see first oil in another 3-4 years. You know, so there are all those considerations. So, and I think any investment that will be going into that area would also have to provide some guarantee of security, which again, we haven't really shown that we can provide.
Sadly, though. But there's been talks about the fact that oil price remained volatile in the international market. And so some countries around the world are seeking alternative sources of energy. Don't you think Nigeria should also begin to tour that path of seeking alternative sources of energy to boost revenue generation in the country?
Well, I mean, alternative sources of energy, solar, wind, all those renewables, and then, more conventional. Look, there are even more conventional energy sources that we need to be looking at. We're talking about coal at the moment. I think that's fantastic. We need to find ways to ensure we can increase coal contribution to power. What we need to sort out basically is our base load generation, and for that we need conventional fuels. We need the usual hydro, coal, gas. We should look away from oil and gas. Yes, we should. But again, for me, I think for a short to medium term, those will still remain relevant for Nigeria. And it's not so easy to just move away. To also be fair, it takes a lot of investment, which at the moment we're finding it difficult to also attract because of the way our economy is at the moment. So it will take some time, but I think we'll get on the right path eventually.
Okay, talking about investment and the capital-intensive nature of this kind of venture, do you think that the NNPC would want to do these exploration alone, or will it be a joint venture operation with other multinationals through production sharing contracts?
Okay, for the exploration that we're currently doing, I'm aware we're considering, we're looking at getting some foreign companies to join us on the exploration. There's a British company, I believe, that's also assisting efforts in the Northeast. Ideally, the way this would go in maybe other clients would be that the NNPC will provide 2D, 3D data over the region. If they are convinced there's likely some oil deposits there, and then they would invite firms to come and take some sort of concession, in the sense that if you do find anything, then you have a concession to mine this for the next 20 years or some 15, 20 years. That's what you typically find. So, but we seem to be going about this in the sense of we find the oil ourselves, and then we can choose to sell out the oil blocks later. So I think they are considering that as well too. It's just a case of, can we attract the people to come and spend that money now without passing the PIB? They'll be a bit worried about fiscal terms. What are they likely to lose if PIB is passed and the fiscal terms are not favorable to them? So those are issues that I think have limited participation from IOCs or other major oil companies.
So can we say that perhaps the NNPC does not have the entire capital required for this kind of operation at the moment, and would need other multinationals and other companies to come in and buy and make bids and be part of the project?
Well, it depends on how you want to go. If you go according to the capital you have. I think that's what they're just doing. It's a small effort at the moment.
Okay.
Concentrated on a particular part of the Lake Chad Basin. So it's not like they don't have enough capital to carry out the portion they are currently looking at. They do. But if you really want to do it, you find oil, I think you have to explore a wider region, and I think that will require some investment from other oil companies. But as you're also aware of, the Minister of State for Petroleum has said that, look, they are intensifying efforts to make sure that they provide the remaining drafts of the PIB the remaining 2 sections of the PIB by October, so that there's some clarity for our companies and whoever may be interested around fiscal terms for exploration, for the field development and production, so that then we may find it slightly easier once there's that clarity to attract other people to join in the exploration efforts.
Just before I let you go, Dolapo, talking about the need to diversify our economy, do you think that perhaps we're placing much emphasis on oil exploration at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, even as an oil analyst, the fact is, it's still very clear that we're still so focused on oil at this time. And I understand that there is a bit of challenge in moving away from oil because it has been the mainstay of our economy for a long time. Agriculture is not something that you just jump into and you think within 2-3 years it will become the mainstay of the economy. It will probably take another 7-10 years to make agriculture the mainstay of the Nigerian economy, if not longer. So I think there are other areas as well that we probably should consider. For me, even gas alone in itself is a major one that we haven't really developed. Nigeria is a gas country with some oil reserves. That's what we keep saying. If we find a way to ensure that we can get more gas to NLNG, ensure that we can get Train 7 going, ensure that we can get more gas into the West African pipeline. Cote d'Ivoire is looking for gas. There are some other countries, even in Africa, looking for gas to power, to create power supply and all that. So we can get all that going, and that will even boost revenue without even necessarily moving away from oil and gas alone. But beyond oil and gas, there are several other sectors we need to be looking at: ICT, telecoms, and the likes. All that matters.
Gas will be another topic for another day. Thank you so much, Dolapo.
Thanks for having me.
Head of Research at EcoBank Group.